Today, we're going to do what is called a recital or a reading. So you can evaluate me on my reading comprehension and skills, if you like, as opposed to some of the people that are coming on YouTube and making complete fools of themselves by drinking too much alcohol and then posting crap which has nothing to do with reality and believing that somehow they're going to hurt my feelings. It's just not going to happen. However, yesterday I allowed somebody to come on my channel and he got abusive, and one of my wrenches did what they are supposed to do, shit-can the man from my channel. If you think you're going to come on my channel and abuse me with any kind of subterfuge or nonsense, it's just not going to happen. So I'll preface this reading by telling you that SPANKY9067 is certainly not his birth name, and he's a member of my Patreon community and raised his pledge 2 days ago. So what I'm going to do as an honor to SPANKY9067 is I'm going to do this reading. Now, typically this reading for the average reader sitting in a quiet room will take about 3 hours. I don't know how long it'll take me. It'll be done in a contiguous fashion, and it will be done over the course of the next several days. Because aside from the reading, of course, I need to read the comments and respond to the intelligent comments. There are some people whose comments I won't be responding to. So if I don't respond to your comments, it's because, for me, they have nothing to do with today's show. So, one more thing. You can evaluate me on my reading skills. So if you were to read this, I'm going to provide the link from my home page comment section. If you were to read this commentary on the report from Iron Mountain, you should understand that the people who wrote the report itself are people, were the 12 or 13 of the world's theologians. So this is not coming from like the guy that has an office in Chicago somewhere, let's say. These are the top theorists in their fields in the world. And what the report was supposed to do, well, on the surface, the report from Iron Mountain was supposed to show the world's leaders, and in this case President Kennedy, how not to destroy the world and what would be necessary for the world to be destroyed, but not to do the things that they point out in the report, which is George Orwell's 1984 doublespeak, or the Ministry of Truth in reality. Now, these people really believed at the time they were going to add something to history as to show what could happen in the future to destroy populations and or nation states or entire countries. So one of the things that they said that the future would have to worry about is the poisoning of a water supply or a well or a reservoir. So what they pointed out was how it would be important to guard waterways against mass poisoning. And in fact, what they were really doing was telling the elite, this is what the report is about, was telling the elite how to destroy mass populations. So everything in the report is how the world could end and the population of the world could be decreased or decimated. Everything in the report is saying how to avoid the decimation of the world's population, but everything in the report was telling them what would decimate the world's population. And now, today, April 28th, 2020, now today, if you were to really take a serious look from a conspiratorial point of view, what you would see is that all of the things in the report on how not to destroy the world's population are actually in play right now. So there is a gentleman on my show, sometimes he comes on, I call him the wordsmith, Scott Del Fuego. A lot of people, well, they believe the virus is real. The video that Scott Del Fuego provided me a link for. So there are two very well-known doctors arguing with Democrats and or Republicans at a meeting, stating that they believe, for the following reasons, and then I'll get on to the report, that the lockdown should be terminated, except in special areas. So, and then they gave their reasoning for why the lockdown should be terminated. Now, I was in the city last week, and I was thinking to myself pretty much the same thing. And I did talk to one man about this. So just think about this for a moment. Why is it that you're able to go into a supermarket with 500, 600, 700 people with a mask on? Why is it that you're able to do that, but you can't go into a restaurant? So you could say, well, in a restaurant you would take your mask off because there would be germs flying around in the air. But what about the 600 or 700 or 500 people that touched the handle of the shopping cart that you're now using? They had germs on their hands, and you're going to touch your eyes or your mouth. What about the people who put the boxes and the goods on the shelves? They had germs on their hands, and inevitably you're going to touch those germs and touch your mouth or your hands. And what about the money that you're handling that everybody has touched prior to you using it? They have germs on the money. See, it doesn't make any sense that you could go into a supermarket and touch any one of 5,000 plus products that any one of 50,000 people may have touched in the last few days, but you can't go into a restaurant and eat. And they also said that the statistics need to be readjusted because they're not real-time statistics. When they shut the country down, the world down, they believed that one particular thing was going to happen, like a large percentage of the population was going to die from this. But now from their studies, the population, the mortality rate, and this is a comorbidity rate, so it's not accurate for the exact virus, but the morbidity rate is 0.03%. Even though it's real, only that many people will die from it. And of all the people tested in the large cities, only 6.5% came down with the virus. So then they went on to give statistics for how many people the flu affected and or killed. And the numbers are far higher than what happened here now, while the world is locked down. So they believe also that the world needs to open up because of the fact that the economic aspect of the world is being destroyed. Peekaboo too, my friend. Hello, my friend. We're going to give you a recital of the report from Iron Mountain, which I am absolutely certain you have already read the report from Iron Mountain. I am certain of that. Well, no, I don't actually know the story of the Chilean leper colony. But you know what I'm going to do when I'm done reading today or this report at the end of the week, I'm going to put that tab up on my page, and because you mentioned it, I will review it. Today I'm going to do a report from Iron Mountain, but I'm sure if you said it, it's in. Now, there's a gentleman going under a fictitious name, Peekaboo to You, who most people that come to my show would be astounded at that man's position in life. So I have actual real people with well above genius IQs come to my show, and he gave me a little piece of information that he thinks I will need, and knowing him personally as I do, I will review the Kalayan leper colony, if that's the name of it. Yeah, that's the name of it. Scott Del Fuego. Scott. Now, Scott is the man, another person way above genius IQ, and who gave me the video that I was just talking about with the two doctors, how they don't agree with what's going on. So we have coined Scott Del Fuego the wordsmith, because in fact, Peekaboo to You and Scott Del Fuego, if there are 15 people or 20 people on my subscriber list that know, physically, actually know in real time what's going on, you have two of those people commenting in real time right now, Peekaboo to You and Scott Del Fuego. So let's see what Scott Del Fuego has to say. Welcome to the machine, Big Kevin. As the New World Order ramps up. Okay, Scott Del Fuego says, as the New World Order ramps up plans, as entities that are their masters in charge give them a plan to achieve final domination, as the world cowers, Michael Fazio bravely stands in the breach. I like that line, into the breach. Into the breach we enter. That's a famous, I think it's Shakespeare. So let me get my reading glasses off. These will be my reading glasses. Let's see if I could reading glasses. Get it? Reading glasses. So let me see if I could get my comments up on my home page, so it will make it a little bit easier. Yeah, there we go. Spanky affords me to read the report from. Now, there's a lot of people out there that have very, very low IQs, unibrows, I call them. The report from. And if you looked at the title, well, the titles of my videos, typically, they actually give you what is occurring. So when I said SPANKY9067 affords me, that means he allows me, either financially or time-wise, to read this report. Because I would not spend as much time on YouTube had I not have very generous people that are members of my Patreon community, and people like Peekaboo too, who took me out for a great dinner in Alona Beach and brought me a wonderful gift. Daisy and I a wonderful gift. If it wasn't profitable, so to speak, for me to do this, I have other stuff that I can do. Unlike most of the people out there who have nothing else to do with their lives and won't even take the time to go out in the backyard and walk around and are complaining about this, that, and the other thing. Bitching. Do you know that if those people... I talked to Big E about this. I could also talk to Scott or Peekaboo about this. You know that if those people in real life bitched the way they do, working for a big corporation, they would never move up the ladder. And if they worked for me, they would get booted. I would just boot them off the job. I don't have time for all of that when I'm doing jobs. So the people out there, there's a guy out there that drinks way too much alcohol, supposedly showing pictures of where I live in my shack, in my house. And he thinks that's going to affect my life one way or the other by abusing me, by speaking words about my yellow tools. And the fact that he believes that he could build a staircase better than me. And then when I call him, I told him I was going to call him, then he doesn't answer the phone to make arrangements for me to make the wager with him, a legal, legitimate wager, and then determine the amount of money at stake, and then kick his ass in a video format whilst we're doing the building of the staircases itself. There is no possible way on earth that man, I'm telling you, I'm explaining to you, there is no way on earth that man could build the staircase that I described yesterday. And yet, I'm going to go for it. What are you talking? But then when I told him I call him, he doesn't answer the phone. Does he think I'm kidding? Does he really believe he has the tools to do that? Does he even believe he could manhandle the lumber that's necessary, 4 by 14 by 17 foot mahogany boards? Some of those boards might weigh 170 pounds, 180 pounds, maybe. And if they're, I mean, how's he going to move the wood, let alone, manipulate the wood into a staircase? Does he have, what tools does he have? What, does he have a 10-inch worm drive? Does he have chainsaws? Does he have, no, his tools, you could put all of his carpentry tools on a kitchen towel. And yet he comes to my channel and believes that his challenge to me is valid. So I called him up to see why and how he wants to get this done, and then he doesn't answer the phone. So that's just a little bit of what I have to go through. So I'm going to read the few comments that I see on the chat window on my computer, and then I'm going to turn on the report from Iron Mountain. And again, if I don't answer your comments, it's because I don't think I should spend the time to do so. Maybe because they just have nothing to do with what I'm talking about. If you say to me, "How you doing, Michael?" that is such, it's like a childish waste of time. When you go into a corporate meeting, which basically none of you people have ever been in, the idle chatter happens for a few minutes, maybe before the meeting, but you don't ask the president of the corporation or any of the CEOs how they're doing while they're giving a dissertation or a reading, or in this case, a recital. Really? Instead of saying something intelligent like, "Wow, that's going to be an interesting topic," or like Peekaboo gave me the Kalayan leper colony thing to read or to read about. He added to the conversation. But you people out there going, "Hey, how you doing?" or "Welcome." That's all really nice, but I'm having a conversation here pretty much with just a few people. So Vincent Michaels, what's the thumbs down for? Perfectly valid. I didn't even notice it. Perfectly valid question. Scott de Fuego, you can tell a man that boozes up by the company he chooses, and the pig got up and slowly walked away. I've seen so many people on here that are drunk. It's just amazing. I 2 weeks ago, I saw a guy abusing me because I had yellow tools. I mean, really? Really? Because I had yellow tools? Do you know that in the airline industry, you have to mark your tools, otherwise you can't work on aircraft? And a lot of people didn't like that. I don't know that they still have that in play, but every single person in the airline industry in the 70s and 80s, and when I worked at Fairchild Industry, had either Proto or Snap-on tools. So if you didn't have your name scribed on the tools, or your tools colored with your name on it, you didn't know if you could just pick up somebody else's, 3/4-inch Snap-on open-end box wrench, which costs $75, and put it in your toolbox and think that it's yours because you forgot you put yours in the box. But if they're marked somehow, you don't make those mistakes. So, all right, so let me go. Mom used to tell me a rhyme. Scott Del Fuego says, Mom used to tell me a rhyme. And the rhyme is, you can tell a man that boozes by the company he chooses. And the pig got up and slowly walked away. Yeah, even the pigs will walk away from an alcoholic. That guy drinking all those beers is just pretty sickening. Peekaboo, too. It was well established by the U.S. government in order to rid leprosy in the Philippines. So basically, they set up their own camp, which included their own currency. They had their own currency because there was a fear if those affected with leprosy could touch the currency and it would be contagious. Well, that's exactly what they're pushing in this with this lockdown that we have. They don't want you touching anything. But then they said that the virus stays on metals and plastic surfaces for 10 days, 7 to 10 days, or 7 days, whatever it was. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. So you can go to a gas pump that God knows who touched the gas pump or a diesel pump and touch the handle, and then you could take money out of your pocket and get change from the cash register. None of that matters. Pinoy ahoy, welcome to the machine, my friend. And check out the Rileys. Welcome, Bill. Thanks for stopping by. And you missed the earlier post. It's in Palawan. I did. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I apologize. I'm not getting notifications from you. If you posted something from Palawan, I'm not getting notifications. No one is. You typically, when the computer posts and all the... I can click on a page on my home page, click on a video on my home page, my video, and it will go to a video that I watched yesterday. So typically that happens when Google is revamping their computer system. So here we go with the show. Yesterday I was on page 5 of the foreword of the report from Iron Mountain, and I was right in the middle of the page. So I'll start from the top of the page 5, and this is the foreword describing what's going to happen in the report from Iron Mountain and why, and what type of theologians and or scientists and experts make the report. So it starts off with, it is not surprising, these are the wrong glasses. Yep. It is not surprising that the group who wrote the report from Iron Mountain, it is not surprising that the group, in its letter of transmittal, did not choose to justify its work to the lay reader, unexposed to the exigencies of higher political or military responsibility. Hold on a minute. Water. I need water. And then I'm going to start again. It is not surprising that the group, in its letter of transmittal, did not choose to justify its work to the lay reader. That's you. Unexposed to the exigencies of higher or political military responsibility. Its report was addressed deliberately to unnamed government administrators of high rank. It assumed considerable political sophistication from the select audience. In other words, if the average person read the report, you wouldn't understand what it said or its intent. It's basically telling you that the report was written for only sophisticated government administrators not for the average person to decipher what it really meant, because it is straight out of 1984 doublespeak and the Ministry of Truth, which is actually the opposite. To the general reader, therefore, the substance of the document may be even more unsettling than its conclusions. He may not be prepared for some of the assumptions. For instance, that most medical advances are viewed more as problems than as progress, or that poverty is necessary and desirable. Public postures by politicians to the contrary notwithstanding, or that standing armies are, among other things, social welfare institutions, in exactly the same sense as are old people's homes and mental hospitals. In other words, the Army is basically a social welfare system for the most part. It may strike him as odd to find the probable explanation of flying saucer incidents disposed of in passant in less than one sentence. He may be less surprised to find that the space program, I'll read that again because this is the part I like. He may be less surprised that the space program and the controversial anti-missile system and fallout shelter programs are understood to have the spending of vast sums of money, not the advancement of science or national defense as their principal goals. So what they said is the space program's primary objective is not to build a space program, it is to bury or hide large amounts of money so they can steal it from you. It's in the report. Not the advancement of science or national defense as their principal goals, to learn that military draft policies are only remotely concerned with defense. In other words, you have a proposal to build a bomber or the F-35. Let's take the F-35. The proposal to build the F-35, well, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I think it was, let's say it was $50 million per plane. It was a little bit, I think it was 36, but $50 million per plane. But it ended up costing twice that. It's not about, but the people that made the proposal got paid hundreds of millions of dollars just to make the proposal. It's all about them scamming and skimming money from the people. That's what this says in the report. It tells you everything that's going on, and it was even going on back in the 60s when Kennedy commissioned this report in 1963. However, now it's 100 times worse. I mean, you got Donald Trump that invested, his family, his friends, probably invested heavily into the pharmaceutical industries, into Abbott, that's based out of India, or what did Trump, do you really think Trump lost money in pharmaceuticals? I would say that Trump knew about this epidemic, 5 years ago when he became president, 3 years ago, 5 years ago before he became president, and 3 years ago for sure when he became president. All these congressmen and senators, they go into the political arena. They're called political animals. It's an actual phrase, political animals. They all go in on a even $200,000 a year salary, and they all come out, work 20, 30, 40, $50 million 6 years later, 8 years later, because they all got inside dope on on insider trading. Now, they may not have the stock in their name, but somebody in their family or somebody trustworthy has it. This is all about money. Even what's going on today, it's not about saving the population. The article that Scott Del Fuego gave me proves, from my point of view, if you're touching money and food items in a food store, well, then it's not about non-contact with the virus. Certainly not about that. And why do they not want you to go in the ocean? The ocean will knock that virus right off your body. The sun will kill it in a different way. They're just screwing you people. This report from Iron Mountain was commissioned in 1963, and it says everything that's going on today. Everything. It doesn't miss a trick. It's as if what's going on today was taken out of the report, which, by the way, the report from Iron Mountain was commissioned to show future politicians and world leaders how to decimate the population of the flat earth that we live on. You think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I dare any intelligent person out there to read this report. Moving on to the next paragraph. This could take a while. He may be offended to find the organized repression of minority groups. This is the General Joe Reeder. He may be offended to find the organized repression of minority groups and even the reestablishment of slavery seriously on the whole favorability discussed as possible aspects of world peace. These are the useless eaters that Henry Kissinger talked about with unibrows, low IQs. He is not likely, the general populace, he is not likely to take kindly. Now, what was in the previous statement is that the possibility, they're putting it in the report, that the possibility to bring back a form of slavery might be necessary to further the world agenda of the leaders, of the elite. And that we, Joe Blow, and we will find that not so pleasant. But this is the plan, and that they don't really care what we think. So he is not likely, that's me and you, he is not likely to take kindly to the notion of deliberate intensification of air and water pollution as part of a program leading to peace. Did you just hear what I said? You people are so stupid. You have no idea what's going on. I'll post that. I posted it. Peekaboo. I posted that sentence so that you people could read it for yourself. It's a PDF, but you can copy as much as one paragraph. Okay? I'll read it again because I have to go back to the PDF anyway. He, Joe Blow, average citizen, Henry Kissinger's useless eaters, he is not likely to take kindly to the notion of deliberate intensification of air and water pollution as part of a program leading to peace. So if you read between the lines, air and water pollution leading to world peace can only do so by reducing the population to a manageable amount of people. That's what they're saying in the report. And that the average person would look at the report as evil incarnate, but the intelligentsia of the world leaders and political structures would find this as a valued method to control the world populace, aka the intensification of air and water pollution as part of a program leading to peace. So how many water supplies, fresh water supplies, are there really left anywhere near any big cities, even the Great Lakes now, that are actually drinkable without some sort of filtration? Not many. Streams and rivers that you used to be able to drink straight out of. When we went camping, when we were kids, if you did that now, probably most of the rivers that I drank out of upstate New York and New Paltz and Oneonta County, and we had probably not, you'd probably get sick from it, or you'd be ingesting carcinogenics. So I'll read it again, and then I'm going to move on to the next sentence. Yeah, this could take a while. He, Joe Blow, the useless eaters, is not likely to take kindly to the notion of deliberate intensification of air and water pollution, in parentheses, as part of a program leading to peace, which means a manageable population due to the fact that they will kill you with air and water pollution. Even when the reason for considering it is made clear. So even when the politicians amongst themselves and the intelligentsia make it clear to one another it's necessary, water pollution and air pollution is necessary to thin out the herd, we, you and me, Joe Blow, are not going to find it a convenient solution. Next sentence. This is a big one. This is about war. That a world without war will have to turn sooner rather than later to universal test tube procreation. Okay, wait a second. That a world without war will have to sooner rather than later to universal test tube procreation will be less disturbing, if no more appealing. All right? That a world without war will have to turn sooner rather than later to universal test tube procreation. I don't know why they said that. That's a sentence. I'm not real sure what that means, but probably not a good thing. I'll let you guys figure it out. I'll copy it and paste it. Big E, welcome to the machine. Now, Big E has been being abused, and there are several videos I saw in the last 24 hours that have nothing to do with reality. But we're going to work through this report. So I just want you to know there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that's not truthful. But what I'm reading you is truthful. Big E says, now, without people like Big E and Scott and Peekaboo and several other dozen people, I wouldn't take the time to do this. That's why, especially SPANKY9067 with his most generous pledge through Patreon, I'm going to read this report for Spanky because he's a working class man, and I just wanted to do something special for him. So I will. He actually compensated me for the time it's going to take to do the report, but not for the report. He did not hire me in any way, shape, or form to do this. I just thought I wanted to do something nice, and you can thank SPANKY9067 for this information, which is what's going on in today's world. And to prove to you, instead of talking about conspiracy theories, this report proves that what's going on today was planned 1963, 73, 83, 93, 103, 113, 47 years ago. Okay, what's going on today was planned 47 years ago, but it was planned back in the 1800s. I could prove that, but I don't need to. So let's go back to the report. That a world without war will have to turn sooner. So in other words, if there are no wars, we will have to turn sooner rather than later to universal test tube procreation. I'm missing the point of that sentence. But few readers will not be taken aback, at least by a few lines in the report's conclusions, repeated in its formal recommendations. And some of the recommendations are that suggest that the long-range planning and budgeting of the optimum number of lives to be destroyed annually in an overt warfare is high on the group's list of priorities for governmental action. They want a lot of people dead. That's what this says. Okay, so I'm going to just, I don't know how many, I don't know how many characters this is. Okay, let's just try. Repeated in its formal recommendations. Okay, so how a lot of people have to die in wars. This is what it says. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm telling you what it says. Okay, I'm gonna cut this, and then I'm gonna paste it in 2 comments. What it just said is that we need war to decimate the population. And that this plan, again, 47 years ago, this plan was written, this report. And it cost like $13 million. So I'll read that again and move on. But few readers will not be taken aback, at least by a few lines in the report's conclusions, repeated in its formal recommendations, that suggest the long-range planning and budgeting, which means making so, of the optimum number of lives to be destroyed annually in overt warfare is high on the group's list of priorities for government action. In other words, the group decided that the best way to treat the future is to destroy as many lives as possible through overt warfare. But as the report goes on, the warfare is chemical, biological, radiological, air and water pollution, and now possibly with the now Big E and I differ on this, but the 60 gigahertz transmission towers, or that they're putting in the hospitals. I think now Big E would be able to tell me. The Big E says 5G is not harmful, and I don't know. I've seen a lot of videos that say different. He is the person to know about this, but he also has a position in life that he has to defend or not defend. But I mean, if he doesn't defend his position in real life, he can't go on doing what he does. So I'll take his word for it as truth, but I also have my own, that from his studies, but I have my own beliefs that all of these 5G towers have transmitters that the range of the vibratory rate of the frequencies can be modified, modulation, and they could be turned into harmful stations. That's my belief, and I've seen many videos. I mean, it's kind of like a radio frequency. You just turn the dial, so maybe it'll go from 5G to 60 megahertz, or I don't know. But now he may or may not answer that question. I'm not on the page, but I don't believe for a minute all of these cell towers are beneficial to man for one reason, just for one reason. Number one, the engineers and the scientists that created 5G, a lot of them work either for the state of Israel or with the state of Israel employing these 5G towers all over the world, except Israel. Okay? I understand there are no 5G towers in Israel. Now, is it true? I don't know. I don't live in Israel. But I believe that Trump, who said that he was going to straighten out the economy and then straightened it out, what, for a year and a half? And now it's the most worst economy in the history of all of time and space. And that Trump lied about the amount of deaths and the fact that no one, when they went to Elmhurst General Hospital, saw what he said in the live stream. He lies. Right, Mr. Trump? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How much do you lie, Mr. Trump? No answer. He didn't even fucking answer me. He didn't even answer me. You hiding something? He's taking the fifth. Trump is taking the fifth. You want me to bring Mr. Obama over here? Why? Oh, okay. All right. He's afraid of Mr. Obama. So, if Trump also said he never wanted to take away the Second Amendment, and now he's letting all kinds of stuff go on behind the scenes to remove the weapons from the American public. They're allowing all the little baby steps, they call it. While they're screwing you worldwide and politically, they're putting in thousands and tens of thousands of rules and regulations that will allow them to take your guns. Stupid you are. Because now you can be declared a conspiracy theorist or a right-wing religious fanatic, and they can take your guns away because you believe in God, because you're a member of a church. And Trump allowed this to happen, you dumb bastards. Trump is not your friend. Neither was Obama. Neither is any politician. They're all corrupt. They're all on the take. And more truth comes out of my mouth than will ever come out of Trump's mouth, or Obama for that matter. So let's read the next sentence. Yeah, this is going to take a while, Spanky. So I'll read that one sentence again. But, I have to find out where I was. But few readers will not be taken aback. That means few people will not be scared to death of this next line. Few people will not be frightened for their lives because of their next conclusion. But few readers will not be taken aback, at least by a few lines in the report's conclusions. In other words, there are a few lines in the conclusions of the report, repeated in its formal recommendations. So the recommendations and the conclusions of what's necessary that suggest that the long-range planning and budgeting of the optimum number of lives to be destroyed, that means gone, annually in overt warfare is high on the group's list of priorities for governmental action. In other words, the recommendations and the conclusions that the recommendations are true and correct are to destroy as many lives as possible annually through overt war. But war now has moved to biological and radiological. Oh, did I forget to mention Fukushima? Do you remember they were building so many tanks that they had no room to put more tanks in, and each tank was getting filled up, and then within a year or so the tanks were corroding and leaking? Does anybody remember Fukushima? And 300 tons of water a day, every day for 20 or 30 years of radioactive contaminants, and the fact that all the jellyfish in the Pacific Ocean melted, and the fact that They would not allow divers to dive anywhere within 10 miles of Fukushima because downwind of the water currents, because everything was dead. Does anybody remember Fukushima? Well, that's still going on. So let's read the comments. I see the wordsmith was here. All right, Big E with his commentary. It uses less power per station, but more stations. Yes, because the frequency of the waves doesn't go far, from what I understand. Scott Del Fuego says, better to live one day as the lion than 100 years as the sheep. The Constitution must be defended at any cost. Oath Keepers, #3. Yep, I agree. For years and years, all the internet experts talked to us about brain cancer with cell phones. But between 1992 and 2018, the rate of brain cancer has plummeted. The data does not show that people died more from radiation from cell phones. So Big E is actually an expert in this field. And I gotta say that I want to believe what Big E is saying. Although only thing I know about brain cancer is it's not common to begin with. It's not a common cancer. I had a girlfriend that her father died of brain cancer, and they said it's not even 1/10 of a percentage point. But Big E goes on. So for this and a dozen other reasons, I do not believe 5G has any risk factor to worry about. So I disagree, and that's cool. But that's not, well, it's what I said about the towers. But I've seen videos. Okay, maybe you could, Big E, I'm serious now. Maybe you could tell me why, or even if it's a hoax, if there are certain videos on the internet where there's a tree next to the 5G towers and the birds, multiple birds on the ground flapping around. Can that be explained from the 5G towers, or also the leaves of the tree where it's radiating from are dead? Is there a connection? I don't know. I mean, I see the videos. I see that they're real people in real time, real birds. They zoom in and then they zoom up at the tree, that the leaves are dead. The birds are falling out of those trees. I mean, the birds are literally falling out of the tree, multiple birds. Okay. All right. Well, then there you go. Big E knows about this stuff. I know there was a video that was posted this week sometime from what I call an idiot savant, but Big E disagrees. But he has an amazing ability to get things wrong. So I've never seen anybody get so many things wrong. So in a sense, even though what he posts in his videos is wrong, he has almost 100% rate of being wrong. So I would call that, maybe it's a new category in being an idiot savant. Maybe we should start a new category, that someone who gets everything wrong all the time would be an idiot savant in incorrectness. Scott Del Fuego, when he said every normal man must be tempted at times to spit upon his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin slitting throats, H.L. McKinnon proved himself a man of pre-science and wisdom. And Scott, I've read that, and I'm pretty sure that if they just prolong this a few more years, all the real men in this world, like yourself and many, many others, are going to just be dead of old age, and they'll just walk through it and do whatever they want, because I don't know that it'll happen. But it's the plan is to mentally incapacitate people with fluoride, sodium fluoride in the water, and chemicals in the air, and lead paints, and man, they have this thing down to a science. Big E. So Big E explained 5G in all of its power. I can explain that. 5G in all of its power, if it's right next to it, emits a hell of a lot of heat from radiation. Okay. So it's all right. The regulation will have that throttled down to where it won't happen. The regulation, okay, so Big E is talking about them being able to modulate the frequency. So he's explaining that the regulation that they have on the books will have it that throttled, where the regulation will have that throttle down to where it won't happen. A car going 100 miles an hour can cause a lot of damage. A car going 2 miles an hour, nearly no damage, okay? So if you put your face up to a 5G tower running at full throttle, it would burn you, but dispersion 20 feet away makes it not damaging. Okay. All right, well, Big E is I've said it before. Not only do I hear it, but I know it to be true, that Big E is in charge of Southeast Asia in a field that is, he would be the person to know this information. So the radiation itself is like 1/100th of an X-ray. All right. Yeah, I do remember Y2K. I was probably the only person in the world that didn't give a shit if their computer fried. I didn't care. Okay, so we have people on the fringe of reality. Just remember, Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, Globe Smart, Vodafone, why would they want to kill all their customers? That makes sense. But the government controls all of those corporations. But and it's a good opinion that they wouldn't want to, but there's a bigger plan. What we have to do is sit down on the beach together and have a real conversation, and just discuss, because it's not fair to you that you can't come on my show, and I can't put you on my show because it won't allow me to put StreamYards on my computer. All right, Big E's saying it's the other way around. But the one thing that I fear, if you and I do go to the beach and we have a conversation, I want you to bring a big pair of sunglasses like this, because I'm really bordering on whether or not I want to go to the beach with you, because I understand that there is one out there that wants to kick sand in your face, and I am afraid that you will lose sight from the sand being sprayed or kicked in your face. And I'm afraid also, if there'll be a video camera on at that time, I'm afraid that you're going to curl up into a ball like a little girl and run away in fear, and you will lose the respect of thousands of women in the Philippines. So I'm not sure that I want to sit on a beach with you, because I've heard what will happen to you if you do go to a certain beach, that there is one that will kick sand in your face, and I don't want you to be embarrassed or show a cowardly side that we don't believe exists, but God forbid. So wear a big pair of sunglasses so the sand doesn't screw up your vision, please. I beg of you. Chico says is in the house. Okay, Big E, we have a shadow government run by those companies. Oh, please, please, let him kick sand in my face. It sounds like a prayer. Oh, please, Jesus. We pray to Jesus. In the name of Jesus, please let him kick sand. Which is, could be the fourth tenet of our church, the Church of Christians Plus. It is better for you to give to me and the church than it is the other way around. That's our number one tenet. Number two is Jesus said it is better for you to give than to receive. He was talking about Michael Fazio. It is better for you to give, Michael Fazio, than to receive. Number three, the Church of Christians Plus will, if you donate $1, will have a representative of the Church of Christians Plus abuse you for 1 minute. If you feel that you have the need to be abused for more than 1 minute, you can buy incremental minutes for $1 a minute, and a representative of the church will be right on the, like Johnny on the spot, to abuse you. So if you feel the necessary, if you feel a darkened heart inside your soul, and you feel that a rep from the Church of Christians Plus could abuse you for 5 minutes to relieve the pressure, we will have a representative there to abuse you. That's the third tenet. And the fourth tenet is, let there be sand kicked in Big E's face so we can watch the show. So, Chica Sass, shout out, Big E and Sabu and Hoodwinked by Michael Fazio. Hello, Chicasaurus. So I'm going to go back. And by the way, chi in the Eastern philosophies means energy. I'm going to go back to my reading. Now it says, after that warfare thing, it says, I cite these few examples primarily to warn the general reader that he can expect this type of commentary. The statesmen and strategies for those whose eyes the report was intended obviously need no protective domination. This book, of course, is evidence of my repose to John Doe's request. After carefully considering the problems that might confront the publisher of the report, we took it to Dial Press. So, this is the author of the report from Iron Mountain that was afraid of what was in the report, and he had to take it to Dial Press, which was located in New York City. There is a significance there. Its significance was immediately recognized, and more important, we were given firm assurances that no outside pressures of any sort would be permitted to interfere with its publication. Because the report from Iron Mountain, from the foreword, which tells you where the report came from, one of the scientists, theologians, that wrote the report to destroy this world and how to do it in the most effective manner, he broke tradition, or broke silence, and explained everything that was in the report. Or basically, maybe he even copied a report. I'm not sure. I forget that part. It should be made clear that John Doe does not disagree with the substance of the report. So in other words, John Doe, the person giving this information, agrees with the basic tenets of the report, which represent as a genuine consensus, which it should be made clear that John Doe knows. It should be made clear that John Doe does not disagree with the substance of the report, which represents as a genuine consensus in all important respects. He constituted a minority of one, but only on the issue of disclosing it to the general public. But only, okay, he he constituted, he constituted to a minority of one. He constituted a minority of one, but only on the issue of disclosing it to the general public. A look at how the group dealt with this question will be illuminating. The debate took place at the group's last full meeting before the report was written, late in March of 1966, and again at Iron Mountain. Two facts must be kept in mind by the way of background. The first is that the special study group convened or at any time thereafter. Okay, well, missed the whole sentence there. The first is that the special study group had never been explicitly charged with or sworn to secrecy. So this is how the report was allowed to escape and to the general public, either when it was convened or at any time thereafter. So in other words, they never swore these people to secrecy. I'm sure after this report went out, every report thereafter, you were sworn to secrecy. The second is that the group had nevertheless operated as if it had been. This was assumed from the circumstances of its inception and from the tone of its instructions. The group's acknowledgement of help from the many persons who contributed so greatly to our work is somewhat equivocal. These persons were not told the nature of the project for which their resources of information was solicited. So these people were asked one thing, but the information was going to be used for something else. Those who argued the case for keeping the report secret were admittedly motivated by fear of the explosive political effects that could be expected from publicity. For the evidence they pointed to, the suppression of the far less controversial report of the then Senator Hubert Humphrey's subcommittee on disarmament in 1962. Subcommittee members had reportedly feared it might be used by communist propagandists, as Senator Stuart Symington put it, to back up the Marxian theory that production was the reason for the success of capitalism. Similar political precautions had been taken with the better-known Gaither Report in 1957, and even with the so-called Moynihan Report of 1965. I have no idea what any of those are. Furthermore, they insisted, a distinction must be made between serious studies which are normally classified unless and until policymakers decide to release them in conventional showcase projects, organized to demonstrate a political leadership's concerns about an issue to deflect the energy of pressing for a certain action. The example used, because some of the group had participated in it, was while the House Conference on Intended Cooperation, Disarmament, etc., which had been staged in 1965 to offset complaints about the escalation of the Vietnam War. There's a lot of this that when I read it, I don't put any real sustenance to it because I don't know about these other reports. John Doe does acknowledge this distinction as well as the strong possibility of public misunderstanding. But he feels that if sponsoring agency had wanted to mandate secrecy, it could have been done so at the outset or the beginning. It could also have been assigned the project to one of the government's established think tanks, which normally work on a classified basis. He scoffed at the fear of public reaction, which would have no lasting effect on long-range measures. So the government already knew if the report was released, it would have nobody would do anything about it. He scoffed at the fear of public reaction, which could have no lasting long-term effect on long-range measurements that might be taken to implement the group's proposals, and deride the group's abdication of responsibility for its opinions and conclusions. So far, he was concerned that there was such a thing as a public right to know, which was being done on its behalf. The burden of proof was on those who abridge it. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna go to my Facebook one day and I'm gonna remove 90% of the people that send me comments. Lyrish, welcome to the machine. Expat Pepper, welcome to the machine. We're abusing the government here today, and also, yeah, we're trying to keep Big E safe at the same time. We love Big E, and we love Lyrish, and we love Expat Prepper. We actually love the entire scenario, what's occurring because of Big E's leadership and bringing so many groups of people together. Shout out to the Big E in Cebu, baby. He's not my sugar daddy, but he is, of course, as you well know, according to information released on the internet just 2 days ago, he is paying these people 100 pesos per to come to each and every show. These girls are racking up, doing 10 shows a day, 1,000 pesos a day from Big E. 40 girls, 40,000 pesos a day to get them to come to my show, Lyra's show, Cheese show, his show, Expat Prepper's show, and so on and so forth. Going back to the report. If my account seems to give John Doe the better of the argument, despite his failure to convince his colleagues, so be it. My participation in this book testifies that I am not neutral. In my opinion, the decision of the specialty study group to censor its own findings was not merely timid, but presumptuous. But the refusal, as of this writing, of the agencies for which the report was prepared to release it themselves raises broader questions of public policy. In other words, the government paid, it's in the report, I think $13 million in 1963 to have a report based on how to best serve the public, but they wouldn't release it to the public. Such questions, it goes on to say, such questions center on the continuing use of self-serving definitions of security to avoid possible political embarrassment. It is ironic how often this practice backfires. Then the author of the article who got the information from John Doe is now talking. I should state for the record that I do not share the attitudes towards war and peace and life and death and survival of the species manifested in the report. Because basically what the report says is that they need to destroy as many lives possible through pollution and war and famine. It's in the report. That part I didn't read yet. I don't know that I don't know, there was enough days left in the world to finish this at the rate I'm going, one paragraph per half hour. It could take some time. Few readers will agree with the report and its conclusions, which basically states they want to destroy the population of the world. This is what the report of Iron Mountain really says. In human terms, it is in human terms. In other words, looking at it from human psychology. In human terms, it is an outrageous document, but it does represent a serious and challenging effort to define an enormous problem. That's what they're talking about, is overpopulation. And it explains, or certainly appears to explain, aspects of American policy otherwise incomprehensible by the ordinary standards of common sense. In other words, they've been polluting America via radiation. How many hundreds of nuclear bombs were set off and how many billions of Curies were released, and how many people breathed in the fumes, well, you know, got lead paint on their skin, and how much mercury poisoning is in the rivers. This is all part of the bigger plan. What we may think of these explanations of war, peace, and pollution as something else, but it seems to me that we are entitled to know not only what they are, but whose plans they are. Next paragraph. By whose, I don't mean merely the names of the authors of the report, but much more important, we have a right to know to what extent their assumptions of social necessity are shared by the decision makers in our government. So he, the author, wants to know who commissioned the report and why, and what they're going to do with it. Well, the shadow government through Kennedy commissioned the report, in my opinion, and what they're going to do with it was they wanted to know how not to destroy the population of America and the world, and by these people telling them what to look out for, those are the things that they know will destroy the population, and those are the things that they're doing today, now, April 27, 2020. Which do they accept? Which do the world leaders accept to be acceptable? Which pollution, which wars, which destruction of peoples, which is acceptable and which is not? However disturbing the answers, only full and frank, which do they accept? However disturbing the answers, only full and frank discussion offers any conceivable hope of solving the problems raised by the Special Study Group in their report from Iron Mountain, LCL, New York, June 1967. So that I'll read a few more things. Gone live. All right, so I'm going to continue reading the report. Hello, Philippines on Demand. Mr. Trump, it's time for me and you and Mr. Obama to wake up. Wake up. It's time for the three of us to have a little talk. So, Mr. Trump, do you believe that you have caused more outright devastation to the world economy than Mr. Obama? Okay, so Mr. Trump believes that he has done more to destroy the world economy than Mr. Obama. Mr. Obama, do you agree with that? Mr. Obama agrees that Trump has destroyed more of the economic structure of the world than he could have. Mr. Obama, was it your intention to destroy the economy of the world? And do you agree that Mr. Trump has done a good job? Do you agree that Mr. Trump is number one? Why not? You can tell me. Mr. Obama just said Trump can't be number one because Steve Montelli doesn't even know who Trump is, and that Mr. Obama has a friend named Steve Montelli, and that makes Mr. Obama number one. So should we put Mr. Trump away for now? What do you want to talk about? Mr. Obama, we can't do that. You need to go to the Steve Montelli show. All right, so we're going to put Mr. Obama away. Mr. Trump, you guys want to kiss and make up? No, they're not interested in that at all. So, Mr. Trump, do you and Mr. Obama work for the same evil, elite, shadow governments? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. It reminds me of the rabbis when they bang their head on the wall. They're all in agreement. I wish I knew the rabbi prayer, but I don't know the rabbi prayer. Look, they're all, do you guys work hand in hand with Israel? Look at this. The three rabbis. Yeah, baby. All right, you go back over there, Mr. Obama. You talk to Steve. Mr. Trump, I'm going to put you back on the shelf. I'm going to go back to reading. Just wanted to take a little commercial break from our sponsor. All right. Background information on the report from Iron Mountain. The following account of the workings of the Special Study Group is taken for verbatim from a series of tape interviews I had with John Doe. The transcript has been edited to minimize the intrusion of my questions and comments as well as for length, and the sequence has been revised in the interest of continuity. How was the group formed? So I'm gonna start posting this. The general idea for the group for this kind of study dates back to at least 1961. It started with some of the new people who came in with Kennedy administration, mostly, I think, with McNamara, Bundy, and Rusk. They were impatient about many things. One of them was that no real serious work had been done about planning for peace, a long-range peace, that is, with long-range planning. So what that means is exactly opposite of what the report was commissioned for. Everything that had been written on the subject before 1961 was superficial. There was an insufficient appreciation of the scope of the problem. So what they're saying is, we have a problem if we go from a wartime industry to a peacetime existence. That's a problem for these people. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and tell you, without war, without the destruction of 17 to 27, 30-year-old men, the population of America from the time of World War I would probably be in the billions if there was no wars. That's their problem. There are too many people. You are, according to Henry Kissinger, useless eaters. You're not understanding why the report from Iron Mountain was made. It was to figure out how to kill you people when the time came. The main reason for this report, of course, was that the idea of real peace in the world, general disarmament, and so on, was looked at as utopian or even crackpot. This is still true and is easy enough to understand when you look at what's going on in the world today. It was reflected in the studies that had been made up at the time. They were not realistic. The idea of world peace was not realistic. In the report, it tells you why it's not realistic. It's not realistic because they don't think it can happen. It's not realistic because they don't want it to happen, because there'll be overpopulation of the entire species. The idea of the special study, the exact form it would take, was worked out early in 1963. The settlement of the Cuban Missile Crisis affair had something to do with it, but what helped most to get it moving were the big changes in military spending that were planned. Plants being closed. So this is the problem they faced. Military-industrial complex corporations that built bombs and missiles were going out of business. This was the problem they faced, not starvation, world hunger, medical advancements. The problems that the government faced, the elites, the shadow government faced, were the fact that they were closing military installations and factories that built bombs, missiles, and atomic weapons. Plants being closed, relocations, and so forth. Most of it wasn't made public till much later. It says it took a long time to select the study group. Who made the selection? And that's something that even John Doe and the author won't tell us. Who made the selection? I wasn't involved with the preliminary planning. The first I knew of it was when I was called myself, John Doe. But 3 of the people had been in on it. And what the rest of us know, we learned from them about what went on earlier. I do not know that it started very informally. So he said he doesn't know if it started by accident or intentionally by those 3 people. I don't know what particular government agency approved the project. So nobody knows who was going to expend $13 million or why. Then he says, the interviewer said, would you care to take a guess? And John Doe says, all right. I think it was an ad hoc committee at the cabinet level or near it. It had to be. I suppose they gave the author organizational job, making arrangements and paying the bills and so on. So he's saying that it was at a government level, at cabinet level. Now, if you asked me how the levels of the government work, I really probably couldn't tell you. But I guess the cabinet is a high level. I don't know, Congress, Senate, cabinet. I'm not very familiar with how the tier system works in the government. It's not something I ever wanted to learn about. So, but I would imagine that at the cabinet level, I think he's talking about the president's cabinet. So I would imagine it happened at the highest executive level. Okay? To somebody from the state or defense of the National Security Council. Okay, so it goes on to explain. Only one of us was in touch with Washington, and I wasn't the one. But I can tell you that the very, very, very few people knew about us. For instance, there was the Ackley Committee. No idea. It was set up after we were. If you read their report, the same old tune, economic reconversion, turning sword plants into plowshare factories. I'll think you will wonder even if the president knew about our group. The Ackley Committee certainly didn't. Is it possible that the president didn't know about your group? I mean, that not even the president knew of your commission? That's a question from the reporter asking John Doe. And he goes on to say, John Doe says, I don't think there's anything odd about the government attacking a problem at 2 different levels, or even about 2 or 3 governmental agencies working at cross purposes. It happens all the time. Perhaps the president did know, and I don't mean to disingenuate the Ackley Committee, but it was exactly the narrowness of approach that we were supposed to get away from. So I'm gonna post this link. I'm gonna go back over to the chat window for a minute. I might stop reading for a minute. Here is what I'm reading from, in case any of you people need a link. And Wow, Clark Henderson is in the house. Welcome to the machine. Clark Henderson asks the question, has anyone ever read the Epic Times newspaper? I can't recall doing it. I may have, to answer your question. I got that up on my screen. The Rabbi Jew Barker, They Want You Dead song. But I can't hold on a minute. Let me see how this is. No, this is only, well, this is only at the high levels of Patreon. Or what I should do is send it out to my friend Clark Henderson right now. I'm going to send this right out to you right now. Clark, this is you. I'm not sure that you've ever seen this. This video was produced in New York, probably back in 2011, but the posted date is after that. There was a lot of videos I did. Could have even been before 2011. Okay, it's titled Rabbi Jew Barker, Clark. Let's get you up there. Okay, I sent it out to our immediate group of friends that are not members of the Patreon community. Here you go. I just sent it out, Clark. So Dark Sider. Okay, so Dark Sider is talking about the Epic Times and the shadow government, i.e. lobby groups. Oh, well, those, I don't know much about real politics, but I know those people get paid. They could, millions of dollars. And talking about bribes or incentives, as they call it. I had a conversation about bribes last night. Obama, Mr. Obama, come on over here. How much money did you print up when you first became president, the first few months? It's a secret. No, you gotta tell me or I'll squeeze your fucking head. Tell me how much money you printed up. $17 billion. So I remember that. So you printed up $17 billion when you first became president. Is that true? And what did you do with that money? Box. Box. What does box mean? Boxes. All right, so wait a second. So you put $17 billion in a box? No, you stupid bastard. I gave a little bit of money to everybody. I bribed those bastards. Okay, so you put a little bit of that $17 billion that you can't find an article about but was printed? Yeah. You got a fucking problem with that? Mr. Obama. So you took $17 billion and you distributed it to who? Everybody that mattered. So like the congressmen, the Senate, the judges, the mayors, the governors, everybody. What if they didn't want it? They don't have to take it. They just have to do what I want. I don't give a fuck if they take the money or not. So in other words, if they said I don't want the money, they still have to do what you want. But what will make them do that? They know damn well. They don't fuck with me. Okay, so you had power. How much power? More than Clinton. More than which Clinton? Either. So Mr. Obama, at that time, so you were more powerful than even Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton got nothing on me. So, then when Clinton said, did you have sex with that woman? And Bill Clinton said, did you have, when he was asked, did you have sex with that woman? And he said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. So, would you be able to say the same thing? Almost. So, you would repeat Bill Clinton's words? Almost. Almost, what do you mean, almost? I did not have sexual relations with any woman. Ever? That's right. What about the children? Ha! Children. Are you kidding? So, those are not your children? They're my children. Put it on a piece of paper. You want them? No. But, so in other words, it was just that easy? Are you kidding? For $17 billion, I could have 100 children with my last name. Mr. Obama, talking about the shadow government? That's right. All right, Mr. Obama, thanks for the insight. What else do you want to share? Nothing. What are you going to do now? I'm going to go look for Larry. Steve's busy. All right, Mr. Obama, you talk to Larry. Goodbye. So there you have it. Mr. Obama printed up $17 billion and bribed everybody, baby. Yeah, Dark Sider. Do you remember, because you can't find it on the internet. There's two things about Obama you can't find on the internet. The first 5, 6, 7 weeks that Obama was in office, I remember the newspaper said that he printed approximately $17 billion in cash, 50s and 100s. So first I'm going to ask Dark Side or anybody else out there, do you remember when he did that? Number one. Number two, I'm going to confirm it with my friend Gary, who worked for Pitney Bowes. There were two brothers. They were twins, Gary and Larry. And one of them worked for Pitney Bowes. And I was in Grand Central Station one day, and I ran into him just by chance. I don't know how I ran into him. And he had told me, this is going probably back, I was in New York. Sometimes I made a lot of trips to New York. Sometimes I go every couple of months. But after Obama printed the money, I had asked Larry what he was doing, Gary. And he goes, well, I just came back from Washington. He kept the machines, the printing machines running. So, no idea when he did that. Okay, so nobody knows. It's as if he never did it, but I remember him doing it, and Gary actually worked on the machine. So, okay, so does anybody remember when Obama shut the water off to 400,000 acres of farmland, or 40,000 acres of farmland, and or 40,000 people lost their jobs because of a little fish about that big called the snail darter. Does anybody remember that? Because you go try to find a news article on that. It's possible, but it's not a major thing. And so, and we don't even know if the snail's daughter it was in some little body of water that was being drained to water 40,000 acres or 400,000 acres. And if you go look for that article, it's almost impossible. I couldn't find it, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But the money, there's no recollection at all of the money. There is no newspaper article in the world that I can find. I looked that says he printed $17 billion. If you put Obama printed $17 billion or prints billions, not going to find any link that goes to anything. It's been scrubbed right off the internet. He's an amazing man. He's an amazing man. Mr. Obama. I'm going to talk to Mr. Obama. Mr. Obama, what would you do? Let's say that you and Steve became good friends. Oh, I like that idea. Let's say you and Steve Montelli became good friends. And let's just say, no, we can't say that. Well, I'll put you back over there. I don't want to get in trouble. Clark says, hi, I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl. Clark made it funny. So, Clark, I sent you out that mail. I hope that you enjoy that video, because you'll be able to see as far back as that. Even then, I was talking about what's going on today in today's world. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna let you guys talk for a while, as long as you like. And if someone has a question that I might be able to answer, I'm not so smart, you know. I'll answer questions now if you have questions. We did lose our audience. They don't want to see me reading. They're not interested in what really is going on. There are a few people, but not most people are not. Clark, you got me there. I have, if you said to me how many minutes of the Bob Newhart show I've watched, I don't think it would amount to 5. It was a little bit out of my comedic liking, or whatever it was. Whatever it was, I remember it. I remember seeing the man, but I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't remember anything about that. Clark, I got to tell you a little factoid about me. We were allowed to watch television after dinner, but not before dinner. We had to do our homework. And then after dinner, after we cleaned the dishes and cleaned the kitchen, because my mom cooked, or my dad cooked, and we cleaned the kitchen. That was our job. She'd go in and finish it up when what mess we left. But then we were allowed to watch television. So, and we were only allowed to watch television for like maybe an hour and a half till 8 o'clock, and then we would go to sleep. So when that show was on. But when I moved out of the house, I was 19 years old. But I didn't watch much television. I went to school in high school. I went to school. I walked out of the house at 6:15 a.m. in the morning, got on the 6:25 bus to Queens Boulevard in New York on the Q11. Then I took the Q60 to high school, aviation, Long Island City. And then we had a minimum of 9 periods a day, but I took after-school classes that started at 6 o'clock for welding, MIG or TIG welding, or whatever extra courses I wanted to learn about. So I would typically get home sometime around 9 o'clock at night. And that's how I spent my high school years. So for 4 years, I never watched the television. Then I built a boat right after high school. That's the boat as the thumbnail of this live stream. So the boat you see in the thumbnail was a 21-foot cabin cruiser that as soon as I graduated high school, I went to the Academy of Aeronautics for a course for my second airframe license, my second FAA license. I went to a course for, well, it was 9 months at the Academy of Aeronautics to get my time in the airframe aspect of building airplanes. And then when I was done with that course, and that, while I was in the Academy of Aeronautics, I also was building a 21-foot cabin cruiser. After the course, I went back. I graduated in 73, that was 74. In 75, I went back to the extended 12th period to take the practical for the airframe test, which was 6 more months of school doing practical work on airframe repair and structure or design. So I didn't have much time between building the boat and a year and a half of school after that. And as soon as I was done building the boat, July 3rd, 1976, when I went to Operation Sail, on July 7th, I was in New York Harbor. On July 8th, I went back to work and moved into an apartment where the boat was stored. And I never owned a television for more than a few weeks after July 7th of 1976. And even I don't own one today. Even I had a house in New York apartments in New York and a house in Florida. I never had a television in my house. I had the internet after 2000, well, since 1995, but I've never owned a television. So Bob Newhart, if it was on during that period of time, I would see it at somebody else's house. But me, never owned a television. Don't own one now, don't want one, never plan on buying one. I would like to get a bigger screen, so I can have multiple screens, but I never watch TV. In fact, there are Archie Bunker shows or Maude shows or all those shows. The Jeffersons, I'll watch them, and it will be even well, not Star Trek, but even Battlestar Galactica. I never watched the series. I watched some of it. I haven't seen all the Archie Bunkers or any of those. I look at movies, I go, I never saw that movie, and I remember the name of the movie, but I never saw it. I never watched television, ever. I never plan on doing it either. Complete waste of humanity, television. Because, as Clark Henderson as a doctor will understand, the 3-second sound bites, which you're getting now, it just destroys my mind's ability to focus. I can't do it. If I watch a television program in the morning, my head is screwed up for several hours where I can't focus on what I want to do. Whatever it is that I want to do, I won't be able to focus on it. It used to be 7-second sound bites back in the 70s and 80s. Now it's 3-second sound bites. I won't watch television. I'll watch a movie, but I won't watch a commercial of any sort in any way or any shape or form. I bought the package from YouTube that I don't have to watch commercials, the YouTube Red. I have not watched an advertisement or commercial on YouTube in 5 years. Yes, Scott. When I went to Robert H. Goddard Junior High School, and you had to, Aviation High School was rated the third best school in New York City, either academic or vocational. Just as a rating, it was the third best school. And in order to get into the school, you had to take a test. But there were other requirements. You couldn't take the test unless you had a 92% attendance in junior high school for 2 years. So that disqualified you. And you couldn't take the test if you were late a certain amount of times. So even if you had 80% attendance, or a 95% attendance, if you were late too many times, it disqualified. Then you went and took a test that it was not, for me, it was not hard. The 3 people I took the test with, Rudy Sanacor and Anthony Davino, we all passed it, but hundreds of people from Goddard Junior High School took the test, and we were the only 3, and those were my 2 friends. But in the test, it would show you a gear going this way. Then the next gear naturally is going to go this way, and it would go through a series of gears, but then it would go down like a spline shaft, and the shaft would be turning in one direction, and it would ask you which direction is the last gear turning. So you would have to either make a guess or no. So that would be, I remember that question. But you did have to take a test on mechanical skills. It asked you about mechanical stuff, but also you had to pass the academic part of the test. So you needed the academics, and you needed some sort of mechanical so that you could imagine what was happening theoretically in just simple mechanics, not airplane mechanics. But the hardest part of anybody was to take the test, because you had to have a 92% attendance rating and a minimal amount of lateness. If you were late, tardy, they called it at the time. If you were late, you couldn't get in. Okay, well, that's the answer. Yeah, I don't remember what the test was, but we had to take a test. And only 3 people and everybody took every test then. It wasn't like it is now, where you took 2 schools or 3 schools. Like, pretty much everybody took the test to get into aviation, and also Jamaica High School was an automotive school. Same requirements, high attendance rating, high academic rating, and a mechanical test. I didn't take that. I would not have wanted to go to that school. All in my family. Oh, I love that show. Scott Del Fuego. Yes, those are probably part of my high school records, or my records at Robert H. Goddard. Probably they still exist. I wouldn't know where to look for them. Biggie says, you have many new friends. Bishop, Clark Kent, Salama. Oh, yeah. You know what I've really grown to appreciate the last couple of days is all the women and all the new channels from the men. Tropical Tim in the Philippines, Philippines On Demand, Canoy in the Philippines, Expat Preppa, the Hopsters, who are, she's a Filipino couple, and then of course all the women. I've really grown to enjoy that, and I like that they call me Bishop, because I think they want to be ordained, a lot of the women. I think they would like to be ordained into the church, and being that you are paying them 100 pesos per show per person, I think with a little extra help, we could get them to all come to Bohol for the opening of the church itself, the Church of Christians Plus. Thank you for reminding me about the additional female and Philippines blogger community. All in the Family was a funny. My folks allowed 1 hour of television per night after all the homework was done. Same thing. I was busy like you with other priorities and rarely watched the boob tube. Yeah, for 1 year, okay, aviation had night school, and the night school had all the shops that we had in aviation high school: hydraulics, electric, electronics, welding, gas welding, oxyacetylene, arc welding, and MIG and TIG welding. All of the shops that we went to school during the day were open at night. Plus, I was on the wrestling team, which was so. When we had practice for the wrestling season, I would finish school, go to wrestling practice, take a shower, and go to night school. So, and then I would do my homework on the bus on the way home, 1 hour on the way home, 1 hour on the way there. But at my first year, I always wanted to learn how to weld. So I took, before you got to the third year, oxyacetylene welding as a junior. My first year, I did 6 months of oxyacetylene welding and 6 months of MIG and TIG welding. And so when I say the shops were open at night, they were not for me. They were for anybody that wanted to learn a trade, and they were free. It was a school, a vocational program for minorities or for people that wanted to learn a trade, a vocation. Kind of like the schools that you pay big money to go to now. So, except for my senior year for 3 years, most of the terms I took a night course, especially if I had wrestling practice. Like, it came in handy because I had to be there anyway for wrestling practice, so I just went to the school at night. And my senior year, I didn't wrestle because I broke my hand. So the second semester of my senior year, I didn't take a course. But the first semester, I'm pretty sure I did. And I loved learning about mechanics. So when I give people information about mechanical stuff, I really know how to do mechanical stuff. So, these people think to get a license in aviation, aircraft, and power plant mechanics is easy. They're kidding. They're fooling themselves. It's like you. We just study. There are some people that I call overachievers, and then there are the underachievers in the world, and we all know who they are. And we have Honeyco in the room. Welcome to the machine, Honeyco baby. Honeyco, last night you were cute, looking, but you're a lot more. Everybody loves when you sing, Honeyco. Everybody loves that. We want you to sing more often. Really. Even you get up and you just sing every song every time. It's only for 1 hour. We love when you have actually, I don't want to say anything and don't tell anybody else, but I think you have one of the top voices of the female singers. So don't tell anybody I said that, but that's the truth, actually. I mean, if I was to compare you with Chi, there's no way that the range, you're way up here and Chi is over there somewhere in another country, another plane. But listening to Chi sing has its advantages. Those frequencies that come out of Chi's larynx will vibrate the wax right out of your ears. Let the wax hit the floor. Let the wax hit the floor. Not you though, not you. Don't tell anybody I said that. So let's go back and see what we have. a Tai welding class. I remember meeting people from all different nationalities in the night school too. There were a lot of Hispanics, But there was also a lot of Chinese in a class like TIG or MIG welding. It's a really easy job because you're only picking up a MIG or TIG stick, and aluminum is lighter. I mean, relatively speaking, because they were learning how to weld. Well, one of the big industries that would hire you right out of the welding class at night was building office furniture out of aluminum, and chairs, a lot of chairs, a lot of tables for offices. But and for some reason the Chinese people like doing that, so they would get a job right away. There was I forgot the name of the company. There was a big place in Brooklyn. Most of the Chinese people, and that company is like the biggest chair builder in the world. So they were hiring Oriental people. Coil welding, COIL, coil welding, because it stood for coil, the coil of the MIG or TIG, the wiring that comes out of the coil. And it started out at some little, 200 or 300 people when I went there to look to see if I wanted to work there, to thousands of people later on. And they were pretty much all Oriental. Coil welding in Brooklyn. I forgot where in Brooklyn. It was down Metropolitan Avenue, and you made a right and a left, and in the industry. But coil weld, I don't know if it's still around, but that was what a lot of Chinese people did. But I also took gas welding, which I liked. And then as soon as I was done with that, I actually got a set of oxy and acetylene tanks. I was like in my sophomore year. I went out and got a set of oxygen and acetylene tanks, and I had them in the backyard, and I would cut metal all over it was okay with my parents, but I would take metal off of jobs, and I'd come home and cut it up and weld it together, do stupid stuff. Yeah, I loved working in I loved working in mechanical stuff. I just liked it. But also, I had a background of mechanics. My dad, he could repair anything. There wasn't anything that he couldn't repair. If it was in the house, he could repair it. If it was a motor, he could repair it. If it was a carburetor, he could repair it. Back then, everything was simple. But we had a boiler. My dad would take, sounds simple to me to do this, but on the boiler had a thermostat. My dad would take the thermostat off, and you just go get another thermostat, the ones that go on the bottom of the boiler where the pilot light goes. But that's a simple thing. But there's a lot of people that couldn't do that. When we wanted to move the boiler, my dad would do the plumbing. When the washing machine broke, he would turn it upside down and take the motor apart and clear out a blockage, maybe a piece of lint or something. There was nothing that my dad wouldn't. A clock would break, he'd take the clock apart, and if it was fixable, he'd fix the clock. He had a 6-cylinder Mercury outboard engine on a cabin cruiser that we had, and he blew the motor up. I remember I was on the boat when the motor blew a piston, came right out of the side of the piston. He put that motor on my grandmother's, there was a pool table in my grandmother's basement, and I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. This is 1960 or 1961. And he put that motor on my grandmother's pool table on pieces of brown paper bag and in glass jars and milk cartons cut in half. And he resurfaced he resurfaced or fixed everything, and he bought a new block, and he put the block together. Whatever needed to be measured, he knew how to measure it. I don't remember all that he did, but he took that whole motor apart, and it took him the whole winter. We worked, and every time he came home from work and he wanted to do something, he would we would walk to my grandmother's house and we would work on the engine. He always took me. And then when he wasn't doing that, he built models. The models my father built would be worth many thousands of dollars had they not been destroyed. And he never didn't do something. He was always yard work, tomato plants, eggplants, peach trees, apple trees, crab apples, of course. But I mean, he didn't watch much television, and in his spare time he always had something. And then when he wasn't working, if he had nothing to do, he would take me to go ride on the tugboats. So I was actually riding on tugboats since I was 5 years old, which I was on the Verrazano Bridge before they had a road. Right? So my dad taught me a lot of stuff. So before I went to high school, I knew a lot of stuff about mechanics, so that stuff was easy for me. Rudy Sanacor, he became a police officer. He just retired about 3 years ago. His dad was a police officer, but his dad was also would fix stuff around the house, and Mr. Godino was the same way. So we had three fathers that were mechanical. Mr. Godino would put up the fence in the backyard. He would be out there working on his car all the time. And Anthony, we helped him. I had a really cool childhood. I have, before I was 12 years old, I had been in gray advertising in New York City multiple times. Grand Central Station dozens of times, on tugboats, barges, operated cranes, sat in with the crane operators of cranes that could pick up a tank. I mean, no problem. That some of the cranes, they would let me climb up the ladder and go into the steam operated cranes. By the time I was 12 years old, I had done more stuff than most people will do in their whole life, which I like to do. It was good memories. So what I'm going to do now is I'll let you guys talk for a few minutes. I'm going to go, I really didn't have, I want to get some cold water, and then I'll be back in maybe 15 seconds. If you guys want to communicate with each other for a while, do so. I'm going to end this in a few minutes. I don't know how long it's been on, but I have something that I really want to do. I have to throw oil in a machine. I didn't get the rest of that oil, but I will be getting it tomorrow. I want to throw some oil in a machine. I want to make a list of stuff that I want to do tomorrow. I will be probably heading into the city early tomorrow. I doubt I'll be back in time to do a show. So anybody here, don't be looking for me. If I might post something later that there won't be a show, but I have some stuff that I want to do. Plus, I would like to buy I would like to get some foods that I don't have. I ran out of some things that I would enjoy to have, and I don't have them. And when I'm not, stuffing my face with some of the things I want to stuff my face with, I'm not happy. So tomorrow I'll go shopping. I did so many things. If I made a list of stuff that I did. Oh, also, I want to tell you people that while I was in junior high school, I had a paper route from the time I was 12 years old. I had a paper route. Then that was Route 27. It had 72 papers. It wasn't many, but every day I had to do that after school, after junior high school. But on the weekends, I worked for Omar, cleaning up the dog doo and cat poops from 40 dogs and 120 cats. That was my job, to clean up the paper on the floor. And also I worked for Mr. Siegel. I got $2 for the day when I was like 7 years old to clean up monkey poop. He lived across the street. I always kept busy. These people, I don't know what they did to become so stupid, or how their parents let them the slackers, the underachievers. I don't know how their parents let their children become so useless in the bigger picture of life, but it happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of people. I have members of my family that are totally, completely useless. They serve no purpose other than that they eat. They have jobs, but not anything that they've ever achieved. They got government or city jobs. Absolutely worthless human beings that they are. They got a job when they were 19 because one of my uncles worked in the sanitation department, and they got a job in the sanitation. He passed the test, my cousin, as a sanitation engineer, but he became the head of one of the biggest sanitation facilities in New York City. And the guy's an idiot. I mean, a real idiot. But you don't have to be real smart, because somebody's always telling the boy what to do. You know, he's spoon-fed. There's a lot of worthless people out there that had good jobs, but they didn't deserve them. And some of them are in my family. But a lot of the people in my family are overachievers, but we have some underachievers, so I have something to look back. But my immediate family, on my father's side, all those children are successful. But on my mother's side, my cousins on my mother's side, not so much. They're basically followers, not leaders. But a lot of the members of my family, like I had a cousin that worked for Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola. He was the best shelf stocker in New York City. He exceeded at that. I mean, it was a big... He would put so many thousands of bottles of soda on the shelf perfectly in a minimal amount of time. He won an award for the fastest. It was either Pepsi or Coke. I never went. I don't remember. I think it was Pepsi. He won an award and also those displays that you see in the supermarket where you put the boxes, and he was the best shelf stocker of Pepsi-Cola and their products of anybody. That's really an achievement, to be the best out of thousands and thousands of people that had Pepsi routes. All right, Clark, good night. You had a paper route too. Almost all successful people, including presidents, had a paper route. Obama was probably the first president that didn't have a paper route. Cleaned chicken poop at an egg farm for a year at 13 years old. Yeah, poop was a big business even back then. Yeah, the monkey poop was everywhere. I mean, you have to clean that stuff off the walls. But for the baboons, they would put the baboons in a cage or put them in the next room. They never allowed me in a room with a baboon. But the monkeys, you could go in the rooms with them. Good night, Clark, says Scott. All right. Nice show, Mr. Fazio. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're going to end it. Good night, Scott. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. If my show was boring, I don't care. SPANKY9067. Shout out. Shout out. I think I'll read some more next time I come back. Let me take this hat off. Go take a nice bath. And maybe I'll go out and look for some fresh chicken eggs. I just heard the chicken cockling out there, which means it's either giving eggs or somebody's making eggs. There's a chicken out there going wah, 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 like that. It means, no, you'd never get kids to do that today. Scott says, I don't care whether you come to my show. I never cared, and I'm never going to care. That's right. I don't even care what you think, and I never cared what you think, and I'm never going to care what you think. And there is there is something I do care about, but I'm going to discuss that with him in person. And I'm going to make that person understand that they shouldn't have did that or said that. I'm going to make that happen. Because there are some people out there with some really, really strange ideas about their mechanical skills, and they drink too much alcohol. So when that time comes for me to build the staircase side by side with the person that consumes too much alcohol, I'm gonna videotape it, and I'm gonna blast it, plaster it all over every channel on YouTube that I kicked your ass making a staircase. I kicked your ass. You're not even close. There won't even be any resemblance. Mine will be a staircase, and yours will be some kind of pile of lumber that you put together unknowingly, inexperienced, not the right tools, probably not able to move the lumber around because it's going to be big boards. And if you don't have the right tools, you know, we're going to allow 25%. Whoever finishes the staircase first, figure 25 or 50% more time for the second person. It'd be months before you finish the staircase. I'm going to kick your ass in that wager, and I'm going to take your money, and like I said, I'm going to take your tools too. I'm going to take your tools away from you so you never make the mistake of wagering somebody some ridiculous amount of money on something that you can't do. And I know you can't do it, and you know you can't do it. So maybe that's why when I called you on the phone this morning and last night, you didn't answer your phone. But if you really want to do this thing with building a staircase for a large amount of money, I found somebody last night that will fund any amount of money. Any amount of money that you feel like wagering, of course it will have to be put up in escrow. Any amount of money that you want to continue with this wager, it will be met in the escrow, and whoever wins, wins. And you take the money, you take the bragging rights, and you take the other person's tools away from them so they can never make that mistake again. And I am going to kick your ass in that construction off. I'm going to build a staircase like nobody's ever seen before, and you're going to be dazzled by my brilliance in carpentry skills. So why you decided to break my balls about my construction techniques is just beyond my comprehension. There is no way on earth you could build a decent staircase, let alone follow through with the test that I'm going to perform for you and me. No way. So you are delusional, you drink too much beer, your mind is wet or foggy from the alcohol. My suggestion to you is to stop drinking and making yourself look like a fool on YouTube. That's my suggestion. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I bid everybody adieu. Humping Permy. Yeah, baby. You want to build a staircase? I'll build you a staircase like you've never seen before, and then I'll own your tools, the bragging rights, and I'm going to take your money too. Humping Permy.